Slack and E-Major welcome you to the My Type of Hype podcast, where we celebrate hip-hop, not just the hype.
How y'all feel out there?
Oh, yeah.
Welcome back, everybody. I don't even know what episode this is, bro. What episode is this?
Seven.
Episode 7. Lucky 7 of
That's the one.
Podcast. With me, as always, boy Slack in the building, and my co-host, co-defendant, co-pilot. What's happening, bro?
E-Major, we're here, man. My Type of Hype, the podcast that celebrates hip-hop and not just the hype. Slack, my brother, what's happening? You good?
All good, brother. Can't complain. Life is good. Sun's coming out. Summer's coming. So, yeah, all blessed.
Nice.
I want to thank everybody for rocking with us with the last couple of episodes that we've dropped, the interviews and everything else. Feedback's been really good.
Yeah, man.
I hope you've checked out the artists that we spoke to. You know what I mean? I know that people have actually, because they've been telling us that they have. So we put people onto some new artists and good music and all of that, man. So yeah, rocking and rolling.
Yeah, loving it, man.
So, hey, do you want to let the people know about what's going on for this week?
Yeah, man. So today, we talk about hip hop all the time on the timeline, as you know. I can't say Slack. I can only talk for myself, but I know, man. I speak about the '90s a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's called the golden era for a reason. And '90s in hip hop. Not saying everything was all good. We know there was a lot of whackness, man. We know that. Exactly, man. So there's no denying that. But for me personally, it's that, as I always say, age has a lot to do with it, man. And I'm an '80s baby, so from '90s to 2000 was like just prime years, man. Just, some of my most memorable times at hip hop was ages 15, 16, 17, 18, so that's mid to late '90s. So obviously that's my favorite era. But we speak about '90s hip hop a lot. So we thought we'd look at our favorite or standout years in hip hop, 3 of them, not including the '90s. Just to make it a bit more of a challenge, we thought we wouldn't include the '80s either. So we're literally just going to do the noughties. So we're just going to look at 3 standout years from the noughties. So from the year 2000 to the year 2010. And then we look at some standout or MVP artists as well, and mention some albums. So yeah, man, we thought we'd have a bit of fun with this one and look at some top years from the noughties, man.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, you can be being biased if you have a preference of the 90s, but then the people that accuse you of that are the ones who are biased against now.
Very good point.
It doesn't really make any sense. You're saying we're biased against the decade that gave us Wu-Tang, gave us Snoop, gave us Eminem, gave us everything. Ice Cube. But then, so we can't enjoy that year, but it's okay to say that you're biased against now. So, But anyway, aside from we thought it'd be nice and different to look at something outside of the '90s, because the '90s is spoken about a hell of a lot. Tupac, Biggie, all of that stuff again and again. But we thought we'd look at a decade of hip hop that's maybe not spoken about as much, and maybe shine a little bit of a light on that. So I guess without further ado, bro, do you want to jump in first and say
man,
your favorite year of the 2000s was?
Okay, man. All right. So no particular order, nothing like that. I just picked 3 standout years for me. So I'll pick a year. I'll run through the albums in that year that I chose, and then a standout artist, and then I'll hand back over to Slack to do the same. So I'm going to start with the year 2001. For me, definitely a standout year for hip hop. Out of the noughties, 2001. Interesting time, interesting season. Obviously, a lot of crazy things going on, the whole 9/11 and everything like that. But coming out of the '90s, we've spoken about it a few times. It was a weird time for hip hop. I was in a weird place.
You frozen?
Oh, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfect, but now you're moving.
Oh man, sorry about that.
Okay, yeah.
Back? Yeah, I'll carry on. So I'm not sure what that was, man. Sorry about that, people, listeners, watchers. But hopefully you heard what I was saying. But I was saying 2000 was
Weird,
the
yeah.
early 2000s was. Say that again.
You said it was weird.
Yeah, it was a weird time because for me personally, you know, mid 90s, early to mid 90s, we know what that was for hip hop. And then as we've spoken about a couple of times, it just started to feel like it got weird. Do you know what I mean? You had the whole Jiggy era, shiny suits, sorry. And I ain't fully dissing that because, as I've said on here before, some of that stuff I didn't mind. Do you know what I mean? I like underground, like commercial, but it was just a weird time for hip hop. It's like it was like a child coming of age trying to find itself in it. Do you know what I mean? So it was just a bit of a weird time. But going into the 2000s was obviously we had remnant of that and still trying to find itself. But yeah, 2001, I'm gonna go with. For my first year, and if I look at maybe 3 standout albums from that time, and it's hard, you know, picking 3 albums from 1 year. We think, yeah, pick 3 standout albums, but like when you look at that year and you're flicking through, thinking, oh, this dropped that year, it's actually hard just narrowing it down to 3. So this is all personal impact, but of course I've had to put Blueprint there, Jay-Z. That was one of my favorite albums of the year. My second favorite Jay-Z album of all time. For me, phenomenal album. Loved the production. I think Jay-Z probably the most hated MC in hip hop around that time. Do you know what I mean? Obviously, we had the Nas beef and everything like that, which I'm not going to get into because even they want that to rest. But you know what I'm saying? It was an exciting time for hip hop, though. It was a good time. So I loved the Blueprint. Jay-Z, that was a good album for me. Obviously you're going to mention Nas, Stillmatic, 2001, obviously off the back of the beef as well, and I hate to mention Jay-Z and Nas all the time together, but they were 2 standout albums for me. Stillmatic for me, like we had, you know what I mean, shout out to Sweetie who was on last week's episode. She was saying as well about Stillmatic. A lot of people say Illmatic, but for her it was Stillmatic. Stillmatic for me, I just felt like it was Nas just coming back, man, and being like, yeah, just reminding everyone of who he is. You know what I'm saying? So it's a classic album, a very good album, production, tracks, classic tracks on there, classic production. So yeah, definitely Jay-Z, Blueprint, Nas, Stillmatic, and I'm also going to go with Ludacris, Word of Mouth as well. I think that's a brilliant album. That's probably my favorite Ludacris album. Spoke about it a couple of times on the podcast not too long ago. That's just banger after banger on that album, man. Like I was listening to it again a couple of weeks ago. I was listening to his first 2. And yeah, classic album, man, for me. I think Luda really needs more props. You know what I mean? Needs to be mentioned more, celebrated more. He's a humorous MC, but not corny with it at all. He'll make you laugh. He'll remind you of how sick he is. He's got depth. He's got storytelling ability, good features, represents the South hard. I think Luda's a top tier MC, man. And that's a very good album for me. So I really enjoyed that one as well. So I'm probably going to mention those 3 for 2001. And for our MVP of the year, I'm probably gonna have to go with Jay-Z that year for that album alone. Just Blueprint for me was phenomenal.
Even though Ether came out that year, you still give Jay the MVP.
Boy, bro, this might lead into a whole new kind of worms, you know, because for me, and you know, I hope people who have heard me talk long enough and even followed me on the timeline long enough know that yes, I have my favorites, but if I think something's whack, I'll say it's whack. Yeah, I'm not one of these guys that's just like, oh, because I like that person, everything they do is sick. Yeah, but yeah. I've always preferred Takeover to Ether, bro. Like real talk. Like, yeah, right. And that's not some, you know, revision. It's not. I've always preferred the song. I do think the Ether beat sick. A lot of people say, "Oh, the beat shit." No, I think the beat sick. I like it. Nas kills it, but I think Takeover is a better song, man. That Door sample, the production on it, Jay on it. I just think it's a better song than Takeover, than Ether. Sorry. So, yeah, I'd probably say for me personally, I'd still have Jay down as the MVP of that year, but I'd probably have Luda as a Luda and Nas as sort of runner-ups as well. Do you know what I mean? Say Luda because obviously you come off the back of his debut or the first proper studio album, I should say, the Back for the First Time, and everyone was like, "Oh, Luda's sick," but I just feel like he just upped the game incredibly that following year. Do you know what I mean? With that album. So, yeah, that's for me, man. 2001. I'm going to put down as my first shot, man. So, what are you saying?
2001, is that the same year Drake dropped 2001?
according to Game's bad calculations, yeah, I don't know, bro. Anyway, I can't tell you how much that bugs me, you know. Seriously.
All right. Stillmatic, I don't know. Nas is like, yeah. If he's not the, well, he wouldn't be number one because Big's my number one, but Nas will be a very close second to me personally. But Stillmatic just didn't resonate with me as much as it does with a lot of other people. There was some songs on there that I can't do, man. Was it Braveheart Party or something like that? There was a song with A. Marie I thought was whack. There's a few songs on there like towards the end, and I think like as he went on with his career, like when his albums were getting towards the end, he used to run out of steam a lot. Like even what was the I Am album? Yeah, the joints on there. But when it's coming towards the end, it just kind of falls off a cliff again for me. So that, and Godson, same thing. There's some songs on there, but again, when it starts coming to the end, I'll start losing interest. Still, a good album, but I just don't think it's like the 6 mic great that a lot of people talk about when they talk about that album. But yeah, it is what it is. So for me, my first pick is going to be the year 2000.
Right.
It's quite easy to forget the amount of dope albums that came out in the year 2000. Yeah, as well. Around 1999, when people were like, make sure you turn your computers off, make sure, you know, in the house, planes are going to be falling out the sky. Everything's got to crash. Like there was a whole load of nonsense going on moving into 2000. Hip hop, like you said, was in a very kind of weird phase. The whole jiggy shiny suit bullshit was going on around 97. Puffy thought he was a rapper, which was pissing me off. There was a lot of weird stuff going on. Like throughout a lot of the 90s, hip hop was really kind of grimy underground stuff. There was a lot of originality going on, and then as it got later on, it felt like a lot of people just copying what everyone else was doing. But in and around 2000, then I don't know, there was quite a few good albums. So I'm gonna slightly cheat. I've got 3 favorites, but what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna run through a list of albums that were released in 2000, so you can get an idea exactly how dope that year was. Right. So Supreme Clientele, 5 mics.
Off the bat.
MMLP, 5 mics. Like Water for Chocolate, 5 mics. Fantastic Volume 2, 5 mics. Train by Talib Kweli. I wouldn't say that's 5 mics. I'd say that album's slightly a bit too long for me. But it's got some incredible songs on there.
Agree.
I just think it goes on a bit too long and runs out of steam a little bit. But again, fantastic album. Warriors, MOP.
Yes.
HNIC, Prodigy. Hey Harriet, Raw Digger.
Yeah.
Dead Prez. DITC. Black Rob, Life Story. Luda, Back for the First Time. That is a crazy run of albums. Like
very true, man.
You've got everything in there. So I think 2000 was an amazing year, and it didn't really hit me until I was actually like prepping for this episode, where I was like, there's a lot of good albums here. You got a female, you've got some hard shit from MOP, you've got Dilla doing some crazy shit from Detroit with the beats on like Water for Chocolate, fantastic. You've got M from Detroit, you've got Wu-Tang member who's kind of come back and be like, yes, we're still here. You know, by then it was kind of like, what's happening with the Wu? Like, to come out with that shit that he did with Supreme Clientele. DITC, I love that album.
Solid.
I love that album. Front to back, I can just play the album. It's so hard. Like, Prodigy doing a solo album. Who expected that? Like, no one was really thinking that, because Murder Music, I think, came out 99, 98.
99. 98, 99.
Yeah, 98, 99. So for this to follow so soon after that as well, and Prodigy to have a solo album, because I wasn't expecting him to drop a solo at all, but and to drop it, and it was good. You know what I mean? So
Definitely.
Picking my 3 favorites, oh man, that's almost impossible, because albums like Let's Get Free is incredible. Like for a young black guy, like listening to that kind of stuff, that was the kind of hip hop I think was just very sorely needed.
Yeah.
There was so much gangster shit, selling drugs, messing around with hoes, and then Dead Prez came out with this Proud to Be Black and all of that. Yeah, and all of the stuff that they were saying on there was just. And then
man.
Fantastic Volume 2, like Dilla was just insane on that album. The beats he was doing on that album, like he went from. He's got like bounce music, he's got soul music, he's got hard hip hop, scratchy, he's got everything on there, and he did it all himself. Like that's just incredible to me. So, and then Eminem, like when that album came out, people were going crazy for that. I remember going to buy that album, the MMLP, and then you had the 2 different album covers. You had the one where he was he chained up outside somewhere or something?
Yeah.
And then you had another one. Yeah, then there was another one that came. There was a whole thing about the album. Loads of controversy about the stuff he was talking about on there. So that was a big moment as well. I think it sold out in a few shops as well when it dropped.
Yeah,
it was so big. All right, I've got to say, Fantastic Volume 2. I'm not a massive fan of the rapping, as you know.
I hear that. Yeah.
Much on the album, I do love it more for the music, but everything just works on there. The raps ain't whack, like, but it's not the highlight of the album. Like the highlight of the album for me. Then next, I'll have to say Supreme Clientele, because went absolutely crazy on that album. And then for the third one, oh man, I don't know. That's tough. I'd have to say Let's Get Free will be my third.
Okay.
But then you would like Water for Chocolate. Like that's a great album as well. Like you got Primo on there, you got Dilla on there, you got the whole Soulquarians on there. Common really did a good job on that album as well. And I think that was the first album that he dropped as Common and not Common Sense, if I remember correctly.
I couldn't even tell you.
Yeah, I think. Oh yeah, I know you're not a fan, but I think that was the first album he did as Common. So yeah, that was another like groundbreaking landmark album for him. The MVP, I think you'd have to say from in 2000, the biggest star in hip hop was Eminem.
Right, yeah,
by far. But for me, I'd say the MVP be Dilla, because he did so much work on like Water for Chocolate and Fantastic Volume 2. That I think, for me, he was just on another level, on another planet to what everyone else was doing. And even like you listen to those albums and the production just sounds so just perfect. So yeah, I've got to go with Dilla. Eminem was the star of hip hop at that time, and deservedly so. It was a good album. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, no doubt.
Can't front on him. So yeah, 2000 was a really good year, bro.
Yeah, no. So did I actually had that down as well to go, but I had some sort of backup ones just in case we did have the same ones. And same as you, I had you know me in it, Mr. Honorable Mention, but same as you, just to throw out what I had anyway. I had 2000 top 3 was Go, Supreme Clientele, Eminem, Marshall Mathers, and Dead Prez, Let's Get Free. I had them down as my top 3. And I had Dilated Peoples, man, Platform as an honorable mention for that year as well. That's such a solid album, man. They got a solid catalogue, needs to be spoken about more, to be honest with you. I don't think they got.
Never really.
Say that again, sorry?
Never really checked for Dilated too much, if I'm honest. I've never
really, bro, the production's sick, man. And yeah, it's they got a strong catalogue, man. Like that, in my opinion, they ain't got a bad album. But that Platform, my favorite Dilated album is gonna be the second one. I've gone blank now, Expansion Team, but Platform as an introduction, solid album of that year, man. But yeah, like you, I'd had Eminem down as the MVP of the year. But a personal one would have probably been Ghost, just because of my love for Wu, and I just feel like he just put some honor on that sign again. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Because Wu is always going to be respected, but for respecting them sake, do you know what I mean? But yeah, I just felt like Ghost just thought like, yeah. So yeah, throw them out. But to go with a choice for mine, then what did I have down? I'll go with 2005. I'll go with 2005. Slap bang in the middle. Good year. Weird year for me. The whole of the early noughties was weird for me in my personal life anyway. So music was very much like just a sanctuary that was needed, man. But yeah, 2005, and I'm probably gonna say standout albums. Like you said, man, before, so many solid albums come out in 1 year. But narrowing it down to 3, I'm gonna go with Sean P, Monkey Bars. Sean Price's Monkey Bars, definitely. What can I say? And I repeat myself a lot on this show because I don't want people to think, hey, you never said that last time. But Sean Price has always been my favorite member of Boot Camp. He always has. Even in Helter Skelter times, I know everyone was thinking, Rockness is the guy, and he was. Voice, flow, everything. Do you know what I mean? But there was something for me that always stood out about Sean Price, man. So when he dropped that, it was a must hear, a must listen, and it didn't disappoint. Once again, I sort of rotate between my favorite albums from him. Sometimes it's Monkey Bars, sometimes it's Jesus Price Superstar. Do you know what I mean? But it can be any. It can be Mike Tyson. It could be. Do you know what I mean? I think that might be my favorite one. So Monkey Bars, solid album. I don't think there's one track on there that I dislike. There might be some that I don't favor that much, but that I dislike. Solid album. I'm going to go with The Game as well, documentary. Sick album for me. We all know what Game is and what he's become, almost like, you know what I mean, a joke. So not no disrespect, but for me, though, I think that's a classic. Not a personal classic. I think it's a classic. Call it 50s album if you want, whatever you want to say about it. But it's a solid album. Production on there. Some of my favorite Game tracks on there. Still to this day, How We Do is just disgusting for me, bro. I can't listen to that song once. It's just immaculate. The beat, the rapping, everything, man. Solid album. I love that album. Still listen to it a lot now. So I'm gonna go with that, and then I'm also gonna go with it's a toss up between Beanie Siegel and Little Brother, Becoming, and obviously Minstrel Show. I want to say the Minstrel Show because the elevation. Yeah, I think The Listening is a brilliant album. I think they're both classics in my opinion. And what they did for the culture at that time, very necessary. So The Listening is so important, man. And the same way you speak about Dilla is the same way I'm going to speak about Ninth on that work. So Listening was sick anyway in itself, like a breath of fresh air. But I just felt like the Minstrel Show is the one I prefer, mainly for the production and the content. I just think it goes up a level as well. So I'm going to say that as a top 3. But I had to throw out that Beanie one. It's probably my favorite Beanie album as well. MVP of the year. Boy. For the underground, it's got to be Sean Price. For the underground, like I think if he's ultimately to say, who's the king of the underground overall, he's got to be top 3. Do you know what I'm saying? So for me, I'm going to say him because of his work, but musically also for the underground, Sean Price. But I'm also going to say probably Game. I think around that time, because we know what 50 was in a couple of years before that. We know what G Unit was. I might be mistaken, but I'm sure G Unit album dropped the year before the Game album. So G Unit did it.
It came out
04, innit? Something like that. 50 was 03 when
might be 04.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So you know what G Unit was. Yeah, I think it was around that time. You know what I mean? So we always had that discussion about commercial and underground, but G Unit were hot, man. I don't care anyone says, they were slapping. And in Game coming out with that as well. Yeah, I think it might have been Game. But yeah, that's me. I'm ranting. But yeah, 2005. I've got to go with that, bro.
Yeah, I had
And those
2005 down as well. So for me, I had Late Registration.
Oh yeah, damn, forgot about that.
Thug Motivation, Jeezy, massive album, Monkey Bars, The Massacre, 50's Return after his massive debut, Chemistry, Ninth Wonder, and Buckshot.
Yes, good shout.
Sleepers by rapper Big Pooh.
Yes, yep.
Foundation by Ghetto Boys. And the documentary is there too. So yeah, big year.
Solid.
My next one is gonna be 2000. This one's gonna be very easy for me to go through. 2004 is my some very high quality albums. Not as many as 2000, in my opinion. Like as many standout, breakout, kick-ass albums that came out that year. But that did drop were like crazy. So Kanye's debut, Cottage Dropout.
Yep.
Mad Villainy dropped. I know you're not a fan, but for me, that album's
cool.
Summer, Master Ace, the Pretty Tony album, Ghostface. So although I said 2000, he dropped a crazy album. He was dropping albums quite, successively.
Yeah.
Did like Bulletproof Wallets, I think it was, and then this one. So that was a really good album. I love the Pretty Tony album because it's accessible, but it's still hard at the same time. He's got some good jobs in there.
Agreed.
Murs 316, like super dope album, top to bottom. Connected, Foreign Exchange. So that was the first year that Foreign Exchange came out as well. The Hunger for More, Lloyd Banks, and Kamikaze by Twister, which was another big album. I really like that album from Twister. Picking three.
It's hard.
Rest. All right, to make it easy, I'll say Murs because I really album's incredible. And I never expected it. I never really knew nothing about Murs. And the only reason I picked the album up was because Ninth Wonder did the beats. And after obviously the listening, anything that was coming out from Little Brother, I was all over it. So I think I was at a record store and the dude was like, he was playing one of the songs from it. And I was like, what is this? And he was like, it's this dude. I was never heard of him. But I just bought it on the strength of that one song. And luckily, when I even played it, it was crazy. So, so Murs, Master Ace is dope. Mad Villainy is dope. Kanye, Connected. I've got to say Connected as well. That album was just so special because them dudes had never met in person, and the whole thing was done over the internet. And we're talking 20 years ago, near enough.
Yeah, that is mad.
You know what I'm saying? For them to be sharing files back and forth, and to make the album as good as it was, I don't think Nicolay gets enough credit for his production either. Not only for this album, but for all the R&B stuff he's done with Foreign Exchange. I think Nicolay is super, super dope, and I've watched him, play instruments live as part of the band for Foreign Exchange well, and he's a musician, like just incredible. I have to say Kanye, I guess. Either Kanye or Mad Villainy, one of those two, as my third. And the star of that year, man, this is tough, bro. You'd probably have to say for commercial reasons, Kanye. You'd have to say because that was his debut album, and it was massive. No one expected it from him. No one was expecting Kanye to drop a rap album, and for it to do as did, then obviously his career went crazy from there. So you'd have to say that, but I'd also have to say Ninth Wonder because he had produced Murs album top to bottom, and without Ninth Wonder, I wouldn't have checked for Foreign Exchange because obviously Fonte was part of Little Brother, who then went on to do Foreign Exchange, and then that Connected album is probably one of my favorite hip hop albums ever. So yeah, between those two, I'd say Kanye and Ninth Wonder for me for that year.
Yeah, no, that's it, man. Yeah, goes without saying that was down as my last one as well. 2004. Similar to you. Obviously, I've got one major difference in there, and that's going to be Cam Purple Haze. I wouldn't expect you to put Cameron's album down though, so definitely for me, Cameron Purple Haze, solid album for me. As you know, I'm a fan, and I liked his debut anyway. Confessions of Fire. I know the covers, the artwork's a bit suspect, but I like the album.
I never really checked for the album. You know, I remember I remember buying it because I just bought everything. And 98 was that year where
98 was mad.
Cannabis was coming out, right? So everyone was hyped for that Cannabis album. And then I kind of bought it because it was just there, and I was like, all right, I'll buy it. And the cover was very sus to me, man. But I gave it a go. It was okay. A bit long. Some filler songs in there, but it was alright. But it's nothing I would play. Like, yeah.
I'm actually surprised at that response, you know, because as I know you're not really a Killer Cam fan, innit? So I didn't think you would like that album at all, bro.
Yeah, it was alright. It's nothing I would say was whack. But I can't listen to his style for a whole album. I find it very draining on my senses to listen to him rap for a whole album.
Okay.
Style it just doesn't do anything for me. So I struggle to make it through without wanting to skip, to be honest with you.
Yeah. No, I hear you. You know, you get some artists where some people are like, what do you like about them? And you could say, listen to this, and they're sold. The hilarious thing about Cameron for me is that I get it. Like, I know exactly why people take the piss. I can't even really say, nah, you got to listen to this. Like that's mind blowing. Like even on that first album, when he done his when he's talking about being signed by Biggie, you know, but being brought by Mace to Biggie and stuff like that. Even and he was like, the whole interlude was someone saying, nah, Cam ain't nice. So he was like, I'm not nice. Watch this kind of thing. Even that verse weren't that impressive, right? You see what I'm saying? But there's just something about the guy that I can listen to all day long. Like I do not mind him at all. But I get when people are taking a piss when they're like mocking his flow. It's actually funny. You get me?
I tried, but I can't do it, man. I loved it. I mean, album. After that, I couldn't listen to that. So I did give him. Some people don't. It is what it is.
100%, man. No, you know me. I fully agree with that, man. I get it. Like, and that's what I mean. I can't really pinpoint what it is, but anyway. But yeah, for me, I love Purple Haze because I like Cam. I liked him from the debut album, which is why I mentioned it in the first place. I've liked him from the beginning, but I feel like he really found himself on Purple Haze, man. It was like, this is the Cameron that we all know. Do you know what I mean? I mean, he's always been arrogant as anything. Do you know what I mean? Like, probably the most arrogant MC you can think of. But there was just something about that album, man. I just feel like he slipped into his Dipset, Cameron, that mode, that time. And for me, Purple Haze is a good album, man. I think probably 3 days ago, I had it on spin again, just thinking, this is actually a sick album. My favorite album has Come Home With Me from him, but yeah. So Cameron Purple Haze, same as you, Kanye College Dropout. That's still my favorite Kanye album, to be honest with you. And I had Master Ace Down, Long Hot Summer, credible album. He ain't got a bad album in his catalogue.
No.
And then do you know what I mean? He hasn't. Then I had a couple throwouts, straight out of Cashflow Young Buck. Reason I'm mentioning that is right. The reason I'm mentioning that is because I love when I listen to something without much expectation. And then it's actually sick. Like, I listened to it just because, you know what I mean? Obviously, I liked what was going on at the time. I was into G Unit, do you know what I mean? Like, probably half the world was at the time. But I never was really sold on Young Buck, do you know what I mean? For me, he always just felt like the addition for like, to make their sound more, just to make their sound have more reach, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That was exactly
more regional reach.
So I think 50 was rolling with Juvie or something, and Buck was part of Juvie's crew, and then they kind of linked up. So then it was like, Yayo's in jail. Why don't we get a dude from the south so we can get our southern friends? And then why don't we get Yayo from the west coast? So we've got the east covered, we've got the south covered,
touching everything. Then,
that really the point.
Exactly. So that's all I really saw him as, because it was obviously that. But that album, I thought it was hard, man. Production, he went hard anyway, and a lot of the tracks where he was on his own, he was just like went harder. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, solid album, man. So and also Royce, Death is Certain, another good album, 2004. I think Royce in himself, high caliber MC. Do you know what I mean? Always has been. Just needed to get out of Eminem's shadow a little bit, but yeah, good MC. So I think 2004, solid year, and I'm gonna have to agree with you as well. Kanye, I'd put him down as the MVP for that year for the reasons you gave. I think they're pretty accurate in a sense of it was just unexpected, man. Even when you watch the Kanye documentary, no one gave him the time of day. Like no one took the dude seriously. Do you know what I mean? Like,
no, I can't tolerate that dude, man. I only watched it. I know.
You know what? It's actually interesting.
Watch it, but I can't be bothered, man.
It's actually interesting because it's inspirational, man. Because you know what I mean. It's just good seeing someone just kind of he never doubted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
he knew he was gonna make it. Yeah, man. And so it's actually funny because even like when he's in a studio talking to I think it might have been Ludacris. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think it might have been Ludacris, and he was like, you almost felt like people were talking to him, but they just thought, bro, just allow it. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not gonna happen, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? It was almost like out of just respect, I'll talk to you. But then you look at it now, couple short years later, yeah, it's actually mad. So it's really interesting. But yeah, they were the years I'd go for as well, man. So, and the MVPs. You know what? I ain't even gonna lie to you, bro. I was actually looking over it. You know why? Because I thought, the reason I even had the honorable mention down was because I thought, I know we're bound to have one at least that's going to clash, but let me have another one. But you know what? None of the other years I would say are standouts for me. Like the years that we've all listed each were standout years for me. I think all the other years just had some good albums here and there, but I think that they were quite weak as years on a whole. Do you know what I mean?
I don't know. All right, so I'm gonna throw in one then. If you don't have one more.
Yeah. Do it.
Right. So I'm gonna go for 2010, and I'm gonna go for because that was a very kind of transitional time in hip hop. So you had a solo album from Big Boy.
Yes. Luscious.
Lucius Left Foot album from him.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that was when I started. That was like the blog era. So around 2009 into 2010, that was like Alchemist started really coming up with like the Strong Arm Steady stuff. Currency, Jet Life. That's when I was really heavy on Jet Life.
Okay.
So Ski produced all of the album. Pilot Talk 1 and 2, I think, came out that same year. I love both of those albums. Now I know that I know Currency is like an acquired taste for some people. Like they find him very his flow is very kind of
boring.
Yeah, a lot of people might find it boring, but for me,
I can't listen to too much of him.
Yeah, that's totally fine because like with you with Cameron, I understand why some people might not be feeling it, but for me, but maybe too much information. But me and my girl used to smoke a lot. Well, not a lot, but we used to smoke. And he was the perfect accompaniment for that. So we just literally play Currency, Pilot Talk 1 and 2. We'd just be sitting there, just bro. It was like it was the perfect thing, man. So yeah, that was a big year for that, and he had some songs on there that we would just play. Like Address was a big one. Yeah, just
Michael Knight. Michael Knight is one I love, bro. I can't even remember what Pilot Talk that was off, but that's a solid track, man.
There's another one with Michael Rocks he had on the Pilot Talk album that was so. He had like 3 or 4 songs on there. I like the album as a whole, but there was like 3 or 4 songs on there that was just ridiculously good, and we would just keep replaying those albums. So yeah, those were dope. I think that was the year Black Milk came out with the 365 album or album of the year. Black Milk was killing it. Them two beats were crazy. 2010. Who else came out that year?
I'm having a little look as well because I'm trying to remind myself. Mares and Knife dropped again, Forever.
Mares and Knife.
For Never, sorry.
Dope album. Then you had
Little
Kanye.
Brother Left Back.
Yep. You had Kanye's Dark Twisted Fantasy come out that year.
Yeah, I'm not a massive fan of that, but that was that year.
Yeah, I think that's a really good album. So it was and Distant Relatives, Nas and Damian Marley. Again,
that was that year. Mm-hmm.
That was a great album as well. So there was a lot of good music that came out that year, surprisingly so, when you actually go back and look at it. But like you said, it's not maybe on par with the other years that we mentioned.
Yeah.
But I would still say there's enough quality in there for you to say that will qualify as a good year.
A good year. Okay.
So for me, my standouts, that's very easy for me that year. The first one is Pilot Talk 1. Second one is Pilot Talk 2.
Yeah. Nice and easy.
Yeah. And then it's a toss-up between Big Boy, Solutions Left Foot, Distant Relatives, and Black Milk. So either one of those three. Obviously, like the Kanye album is good. Yeah, I like it, but I don't love it as a lot of other people do. I think it's people love that, man. But yeah, I never really revisit it, to be honest with you. But yeah, I really liked a lot of albums then. And the MVP, I think 2010 was a massive year for Kanye commercially.
100.
You had the whole Good Friday run up to the album. So he was dropping like either a snippet of a song on the album or like some kind of remix. And he had like a lot of people on there, Pusha T and Big Sean and all those kind of people that were big at the time. So in that sense, I'll say him. But underground wise, Currency, man. Jet Life. I loved all that shit, man. Young Roddy and Trademark and Fiend and all those guys that were on Jet Life. I loved that whole movement. Ski Beats was doing some good stuff as well with Camp Lo at the time. So I was really loving what he was doing. So yeah, I'd have to say those two were the MVPs of those years.
Yeah, I got respect for Currency, man. You know what I mean? I do think he's a dope MC, but there's just some MCs that I feel like I can't listen to too much of them. And by that I mean probably like 3 or 4 tracks. A bit more than that. Probably about like half a dozen tracks in a go. But I couldn't listen to like whole projects often. Do you know what I mean? And I think he's one of them people because he almost don't. It feels like there's no variation to the way he raps. And I don't think a lot of people are like, they don't change their flow. I don't think an MC needs to change their flow all the time because that's how they rap. You see what I'm saying? Right, if MC do you know what I mean? If they're changing their flow all the time, then what's their flow? You see what I'm saying? I think the occasional changing of flows is welcomed, of course, but nah. So it's not because his flow's the same. It's just his flow for me. It's just a little bit too kind of like I'm just talking to you without much variation. Do you know what I mean? But
it's one of them. I hate when people keep using the word vibe. It's a vibe. Because that means to say this is shit, but I like it. Do you know what I mean? But some music does create a vibe. Some music does put you in a place. Like if you listen to MOP, you're not gonna listen to MOP to chill out, are you? You're not.
Right.
You're not gonna listen to MOP if you want try to get hype or if you're in the gym or something like that. You're not gonna listen to Onyx in church. Do you know what I'm saying? You're just not gonna happen. But if you listen to Currency when you're chilling in the house, smoking with your girl, or if you're in a car driving somewhere or something like that, that's that kind of music then for that. Let's say instead of a vibe, you'll say a mood or whatever. But I get why people would say but for me, it's more the beats he picks too. Like he's worked with like Ski, Harry Fraud, and like all these different producers that all just seem to fit him. Alchemist as well. He's done a few projects with him. Yeah. A lot of time for Currency, man. And the whole independence hustle, like that dude, he's made so much money off just dropping free music. I don't know how he's done it, but man,
And he's a
he's had,
smart guy as well.
yeah,
Like, just watch his interviews and that. He's a smart guy. You know what, bro? I didn't say 2003. I said I had no other honorable mention. You know why? As I'm looking at my list and I totally went right past that, man. So my bad. Sorry. 2003 would be my last choice then to throw out. So yeah, because obviously you got Get Rich or Die Trying, and I mentioned some of the albums as well. So you got 50, Get Rich or Die Trying. What else dropped 2003? Would have been Jay Black Album in it. 2003. Yeah, exactly. Diplomatic Community as well, 2003. So that was quite a solid year as well. Cannabis's Rip the Jacker weren't bad as well. What else was there on my list? 2003. So yeah, they'll probably be the standout ones anyway. DMX Grand Champ. I know there's another one.
Grand Champ, man, that was a letdown for me. Apart from the song with 50.
Yeah, in comparison to the others, definitely.
Yeah, it was a definite step back for me with DMX.
Luda, Chicken and Beer as well.
Yeah,
2003. Yeah, how can I say, man? Totally past that. Tragedy Gaddafi Still Reporting was actually still good. I had that on spin for a while. What else? Obviously, G Unit's Beg for Mercy. I loved that album. Yeah, a bit long. Yeah, 2003, bro. So, yeah, Beg for Mercy. Yeah, 2003. So that's what I'm checking. I'm thinking, right, how can I forget 2003? Yeah. So that dropped. Yeah, that seems mad, isn't it? That it dropped the same year as 50. I mean, I know in that time it just felt like it was June.
I remember when we went to his concert, the 50 show. I think it was at Wembley. And after the show, he was like, "I'm going to play you something from the G Unit album coming." And then he played. Was it number one? What's the song? Teach You How to Stunt.
Oh, Stunt 101, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Stunt 101. So they played that at the end of the show, and everyone was like, "Oh shit! Like this is sounding crazy." So yeah, it could be that he dropped the same year.
Yeah. So yeah, 2003 would be the other one I'd say then, and it goes without saying that the MVP for that one would have been 50. For that, do you know what I mean? His album, we all know what that album was. Yeah, easy. And then the Unit, do you know what I mean? It was just ridiculous, man. So yeah, in that time. So yeah, I mean, if we was to do this, if we used to do a 90s edition of this, we'd struggle because there's just so many favorites. Do you know what I mean? But Noughties was a solid year for me. I definitely think that it deserves its respect. Do you know what I mean? It's more sentimental value for me why 90s can't be touched. And I guess if guys that are probably 5 years older than us are going to feel like that about the late 80s. You see what I'm saying?
All right. But speaking objectively, right? If you just if you've never heard the 90s or the Noughties before, and you've just said it yourself, right? Although yeah, it might mean more to you because of how old you were coming up during that time. That makes complete sense, of course, because it means something to you. Cool. But you just said if we were to do the 90s, we'd struggle. So there's a reason that we struggle because there's too much fire.
But then, bro, I agree.
And there's certain years in the 2000s where you're like, nah, okay, I'll throw that one in. But you wouldn't have to do that with the 90s. So even if you're speaking objectively, you could just say there's too much in the 90s. And then but hip hop was still very young at that time. We're still talking about how old, like coming off or whatever.
Yeah, 50. Yeah.
Yeah, so still in its infancy. It was people were still trying to find their sound, find their feet. Biggie just died. Pucker just died. So I think then the resurgence of the South, because we had we had UGK and we had all of that stuff coming out in the early 90s, but then in the middle it was New York, and then
definitely
and then it was the West Coast.
West Coast.
Then it was New York from around 95 with Wu-Tang and built for Cuban Links and all that. And then when we got to 98, then Master P came. And then Cash Money came in around 99, 2000. So your whole, it went literally from East Coast, West Coast,
it did
down south. So the whole sound was just shifting all over the place in around those
100%.
times. So there's going to be decades where it's like hip hop doesn't know where it's going. And I think around 2006 when like Soulja Boy and them came out, and then it was like people actually saying ringtone rap, like that's how bad it was.
and production.
It went for a whole other thing, Laffy Taffy nonsense that was coming out. So even though we can say there wasn't as much to us quality wise that was coming out, there's reasons why. Like record labels were
100%
sounded like this guy, try to make music that sounded like this or what was hot at the time. But in the 90s, it wasn't so much that. It was people just making like the dope shit and chasing what everyone else was doing. Everyone had to sound original. But by the 2000s, I think a lot of labels were getting involved. Everyone wanted to be on After. Everyone wanted to be G Unit, Shady, try to make that kind of sound. And
that's true.
It's just one of those things, man. I mean, it's still a young genre of music, so it's gonna happen.
Yeah, and you know the mad thing about the 90s as well, and obviously, like you said at the beginning, I'm not even trying to sound biased, but you think about the 90s, you literally take 1991, think of 92, 93, 94, 95. You think of every single year in the 90s, bro. Any one of those years could be a standout year of the decade. Like when you think about the like multiple classics in every year, not just classics because we say so. Like you talk to the hip hop community now and say classics, what they're pulling out from any one of those years could probably be a standout year. Like the 90s is insane. It's insane. I'm glad we was there, man.
For sure, man. But we had to shine some light on the 2000s, man, because there was
100%
incredible shit that came out before. And like I said many times, if it wasn't for Little Brother, Ninth Wonder, all that kind of stuff, I might not have even been listening to hip hop past that because I didn't like all, the jiggy stuff and all that was going on. So they kind of pulled it back, soul samples, and back to the kind of old school rapping. So yeah, there was some really good stuff to be pulled from the 2000s, man. So I'm glad that we could shed a little bit of light on that decade as well. Please do feel free to put any suggestions underneath of anything that we might have missed.
Yes,
in the decade 2000 to 2010, and also if there's any other decade that you want us to go through or have a look at or revisit, we're more than welcome to do that. And yeah, until next week, where we will have, might be a new topic, might be an interview, might be a review, who knows. But stay tuned as always, man. Much love from us as always. But co-pilot in the building, what's happening, bro?
Yes, you Major. Once again, thank you for tapping in, and remember we're on Spotify as well now. So if you want to listen on the go, you can do that now as well. But yeah, I know we say it every single week, but truly, every like, share, watch, retweet, view, whatever, we appreciate it, man, and we're grateful, and we're just glad you're enjoying what we're doing because we love it, and it's just about celebrating the culture, man. So yeah, my type of hype, man. Until next week, stay safe and keep it hype. Peace.
You guys. Peace.